Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, the climate guy setting the record straight about climate. This video is titled, Another Icon of Global Warming Drowns. For the past 30 years, scientists, journalists, and politicians have been telling us that many small islands are going to drown because of global warming. Here's a 1990 article from the Canberra Times. Tuvalu may move on to foreign soil. In an interview on the capital atoll of Funafuti, Communications Minister said he believes scientific predictions that Tuvalu could be swamped within 40 to 50 years. Here's another more recent article from Spiegel Online. Tuvalu Prime Minister on global warming. A cry for help from the edge of the cliff. The Pacific atoll of Tuvalu is one of the countries most threatened by global warming. Already people have begun leaving as sea levels rise. Prime Minister fears that the world still doesn't care about the world's most threatened populations. The BBC made a documentary called South Pacific showing the dire situation in the doomed country of Tuvalu. In 2004, Smithsonian Magazine ran an article titled, Will Tuvalu Disappear Beneath the Sea? Global warming threatens to swamp a small island nation. The Prime Minister of Tuvalu told the United Nations last year that the global warming threat is no different from a slow and insidious form of terrorism against us. Independent scientists also offer a grim forecast. Well, this sounds really bad. We've been warned for decades that these islands are going to disappear unless we do something, and we're not doing anything to stop it. We're just like a bunch of terrorists. But before you start feeling too guilty, a new study is out showing that Tuvalu is not only not drowning, but it's actually getting larger. Sinking Pacific nation is getting bigger. Study. The Pacific nation of Tuvalu, long seen as a prime candidate to disappear as climate change forces up sea levels, is actually growing in size, new research shows. A University of Auckland study examined changes in the geography of Tuvalu's 9 atolls and 101 reef islands between 1971 and 2014 using aerial photographs and satellite imagery. It found 8 of the atolls and almost 3/4 of the islands grew during the study period, lifting Tuvalu's total land area by 2.9%, even though sea levels in the country rose at twice the global average. So now we know that Tuvalu is not only not drowning, but it's actually growing in size. Now let's look at the claim that sea level is rising at Tuvalu twice as fast as the global average. This graph is the official tide gauge graph for Tuvalu from the Permanent Service for Mean Sea Level. What it shows is that sea level at Tuvalu isn't actually rising at all. So 30 years later, after all this incredible publicity and guilt, we find out that Tuvalu is not only not sinking, but it's actually getting larger, and that sea level at Tuvalu isn't actually rising. How could this have happened? Well, another paragraph in the 2004 Smithsonian article explains it. Not all scientists agree that Tuvalu's future is underwater. Some critics have branded island leaders as opportunists angling for foreign handouts and special recognition for would-be environmental refugees who they say are exploiting the crisis to gain entry to New Zealand and Australia. Others have even said that people and organizations sympathetic to Tuvalu are eco-imperialists intent on imposing their alarmist environmental views on the rest of the world. So a number of scientists have been telling us all along that the Tuvalu drowning story is a scam, but they almost never get quoted by the press. I wonder why that is. Well, UN IPCC official Ottmar Edenhofer explained. One must say clearly that we redistribute de facto the world's wealth by climate policy. One has to free oneself from the illusion that international climate policy is environmental policy. This has almost nothing to do with environmental policy anymore. So there we have an open admission from an official of the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that what they're doing has nothing to do with climate and has nothing to do with the environment. It's about redistributing money. And we see exactly the same story in the Maldives. 30 years ago in 1988, they told us the Maldives would be drowned by now. Obviously that hasn't happened. But 30 years ago, officials on that island realized that they could scam money out of Western nations by crying about global warming and sea level rise, which isn't occurring. The global warming icons are all drowning one by one. For years and years, we were told that polar bears were drowning and they were going to go extinct, until this 2013 study, which was reported by NPR, that polar bear populations were increasing. There are far more polar bears alive today than there were 40 years ago. So just like Pacific Islands, they're not disappearing. Polar bear populations are growing. In order to understand what's going on with climate science, you have to heed the words of the UN IPCC official and understand that this has nothing to do with climate and has nothing to do with the environment. It's about socialists trying to redistribute wealth, and it's about scientists trying to scam money off the huge pot which is available to them as long as they push global warming junk science. Visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science for a long time.